வாய்ஸ் ஆஃப் டிஎன் நடத்தும் கருத்தரங்கம். தோல்வியை ஒப்புக்கொள்வாரா மோடி? கருத்துரை ஒன்றிய அரசின் முன்னாள் உயர் அதிகாரிகள் திரு எஸ்.என். சாஹு, கோ. பாலச்சந்திரன் மற்றும் பத்திரிகையாளர் இந்திரகுமார் தேரடி. தொகுப்புரை திரு மத்தூர் சத்யா. நாள் 18/5/2024 சனிக்கிழமை. நேரம் மாலை 5:45 மணி முதல் இரவு 8:45 மணி வரை. இடம் அன்பகம், தேனாம்பேட்டை. அனைவரும் வருக.
Welcome to On Record. This is NH24, and with us we have Mr. Kapil Sibal, the most wanted advocate in India today, and we can start our discussion with him. Sir, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
And thank you for giving us such a lovely time and such a lovely atmosphere to have this interview, sir. Recently in The Wire, Peralai Prabhakar wrote that unimaginable zeal to rescue the core values of our republic is being put by the civil society organizations. How do you see that, sir? Because you have been associated with the civil society organization for a long time and you have represented them in the Supreme Court also. Putting unimaginable zeal to rescue the core values of our republic. How do you see those words?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether the civil society, it may have the zeal, whether it has the wherewithal to uphold the core values of the republic. Because the core values of the republic have been slowly decimated since 2014. And to such an extent that all the institutions that represent our republic have been captured by the political party in power. Perhaps barring the judiciary, all other institutions, whether it's the Election Commission of India or it's the investigating agencies like the Enforcement Directorate under the PMLA or the CBI or the Office of the Governor or even universities, vice chancellors, all these institutions which have to perform an independent role, and most important of all, the media, which has been mainstream media in particular, which has been captured by the party in power. Now, how civil society can, through its zeal, bring about another turn of events which will restore the values of the republic is a big challenge.
Okay. But whenever we criticize the ED or PMLA or the other agencies, the BJP people say that we do everything by law. The law is being enacted by the parliament and we are abiding the law.
Nothing to do with the law. You see, you can use the law and you can misuse the law, right? Okay. So the law is there to be used, and the law is there also to be misused. Okay. So if once you say you abide by the law, then you'll have to then ascertain as to whether they are misusing that law or whether they are abiding by it. Okay. Right. And what we see around is the misuse of the law, because the people against whom there were cases, they either withdraw those cases the moment those people join their party. This has happened in Maharashtra against many people against whom the Prime Minister made allegations were not part of the government in Maharashtra. So therefore, if you are actually using the ED in accordance with the law, then why should there be ministers in the government? These very people against whom we made allegations. And against whom there's no substantial evidence, as in the case of Kejriwal, it's a complete misuse, or in the case of Hemant Soren, it's a complete misuse of the law. So to say that we are abiding by the law is begging the question. The question is how are you using the law for your own political purposes, and that's been the history of this government since 2014.
Recently, Amit Shah and Modi proclaiming themselves that they are the guardians of this constitution. Even Prime Minister Modi went to an extent that Baba Saheb Ambedkar, if he comes back, he can't he even chant the constitution. He said like that. Suddenly there is a change that we will save this constitution. Such claims are being made by the
first of all, why did you decimate it? I don't know how you're going to save it if you are responsible for decimating it.
Okay. So that's my question, sir.
If civil society, if their if those affiliated to this party, or those who are sympathetic to this party, attack and lynch people, false foist cases upon them, prosecute students under UAPA, prosecute academicians under UAPA, impose PMLA on those who are against whom they have no evidence. So is that restoration of democracy, or is it decimation of democracy?
Okay.
So therefore, please, they must explain as to what this means, because they have a different definition of democracy than us. Okay. And their definition of democracy is quite contrary to the values of our republic.
Okay. But the people's anger, we cannot see the public anger in place. Apart from CAA protest, we could not see any protest against the
the farmers' protest and how they recently, the farmers' protest and how they dealt with it.
Okay.
So if you use force to quell dissent, and you use the law, you misuse the law to quell dissent, and you don't allow independent voices to be heard, then obviously you will not see public protests out in the open.
Okay.
Because people ultimately are afraid. Okay. They're afraid to come out in the streets. They're afraid to agitate. They're afraid to speak out. So how will you possibly protest?
Okay. How do you see the right to protest?
That's a fundamental right.
Yeah. But the government is completely against that. And
but you say that the government, they say they're going to restore the values of the republic. If they don't allow you to protest, is that restoring values of the republic?
Okay. How do you see the 2024 general election? Because previously in 2019 and 2014, when Modi was campaigning, the amount of hate is rising and rising and rising. But the election commission is completely silent about that. Yesterday, the India bloc leaders went to the election commission office and filed the complaint, but the election commission completely refused the allegations made.
Well, there are two things that they did. Number one, they said that in the course of the elections, normally the number of voters who voted and the percentage of voting used to be displayed by the election commission, if not the night of the election being over, but by the next morning or the next evening. This time it took about 11 days for the election commission, where the first phase of this election, to tell us as to what the percentage of voting has been. We still don't know how many voters cast their vote, which data should be available. They say that this data is available with the polling agents because the form 17C is given to the polling agents at the end of the polling. And therefore, they say that you should have that figure. But all that form 17C is also sent to the election commission. So why should the election commission not upload that form and the data on their website? And why should the percentage not be declared the following day of the day following the election instead of waiting for 11 days? So one of the representations made, and Khargeji made that representation on behalf of Congress party. There is no explanation to it. In fact, the election commission has responded rather, I think, ungraciously by saying that what you're saying is wrong and it's fabricated, without explaining as to why it took them 11 days. This is what they should do. That's one part. As far as the statements made by our dear Prime Minister, the kind of statements which should not have been made by a person holding that position. After all, he is my Prime Minister, he is your Prime Minister. Those statements, the Election Commission, instead of sending a notice to the Prime Minister, has sent not even a notice, but a communication to the party. Now, as you know, both under the Representation of People's Act, as well as the Model Code of Conduct, if a candidate makes a statement of the nature that the Prime Minister made, then the candidate has to be sent a notice. Now, the Election Commission has not told us as to why that notice was not sent to Modi ji. And why that notice, or not that notice, but that communication was sent to the party. But even in that communication, what is stated in the last paragraph is that you should advise your star campaigners not to make statements that are divisive or whatever. In other words, therefore, that's an advisory. It is not even a notice. So if this is the conduct of the Election Commission of India, because they are, as I told you, captured, they are the long arm of the BJP, then what justice can you expect? And remember, under Article 324 of the Constitution.
But this is the biggest confusion that is prevailing among the people, sir. Whenever we speak about the Election Commission's issue or the EVM issue, people in the comment section of our channel or through the mails are contacting us. Then who I am going to vote? If whatever vote I am polling in the station, it is not going to be registered properly, then why should I vote?
But
That kind of confusion is happening.
How do you know that it's not being registered properly? How do you know that, right? Well, this is what the Election Commission asks, and this is what the court asks, that you are now challenging the veracity of the process by saying that this machine can be tampered with. What is your basis for saying that? And, well, the Supreme Court has now ruled that they believe whatever the Election Commission has told them. That's one part of the story. The other part of the story is that there is a large section of the public which believes that the counting of the vote should not be done through the machine. I think the fundamental premise of electoral democracy that the elector and the voter should know that the person he voted for, the vote that he gave was counted for his candidature, right? Now that, instead of being manually done, is done by a machine. Now, the general public's view is that this machine can be tampered with. Now, the Supreme Court of the Election Commission asks explain how it is tampered with. The problem with that is that I cannot explain as to how somebody else does what he does, because only that person who does what he does will know. I will not know that. But as a matter of law, nobody can know, absolute statement can be made in law that the machine was not tampered with. That statement cannot be made. Now, my suggestion, and that's something that unfortunately can't be done this time, but my suggestion is that whenever an election is held in the future, right, you should have, on one occasion, all the VVPAT votes counted and the machine counted. If this were to be done in this election, of course it can't be done now, and there is no difference between the VVPAT votes and the votes counted in the machine, then once and for all, this particular controversy will be over, right? But that should be done. The Supreme Court says that they believe what the Election Commission does. Well, that's fine. I mean, they believe it. The question is that there are several experts who have actually opined to the contrary, which counter affidavit was also before the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court did not even advert to that counter affidavit. My personal belief is, without going into the question as to whether machine can be tampered with or not, we should, on one particular occasion, ensure that the slip comes into the hands of the individual, puts it in a box, machine counts the votes, the slips are counted, and if they tally, this controversy is over forever.
Yes.
But in the absence of that, this doubt will always remain.
Okay. Recently, when you are appearing for Kavita KCR's case in the Supreme Court, you have made a statement that, my lords, please see what is happening. This is a political situation.
I never said this is a political situation. I only said that when they don't send us back to the High Court.
Yes.
Right. That's all I said, and that which actually turns out to be true, because in Hemant Soren's case, the same thing happened, and we had to go back to the High Court, and in the High Court, we challenged his arrest, and he was arrested on January 31, 2024. We came to this court, I think, on the 2nd of April, 2024, and the court said, go back to the High Court. We went to the High Court on 4th of April. The High Court listed the matter On 11th of April, then sorry, not 4th of April. Sorry, this is January 31, February 2nd, and February 4th, and it was posted to February 11th. And then the court said, I'll hear the matter on February 27th. So February 27th, the judge heard the matter and reserved order on February 28th when the argument was over. Now, no judgment was announced in March and in April. And we went back to the High Court, I think, on the 9th or 8th or 9th of April, requesting the judge that, look, we've been waiting for this judgment. The Chief Minister, I mean, he was the Chief Minister, he is in jail. At least we are entitled to the judgment. Then we moved the Supreme Court and we said the judge has not rendered the judgment. The Supreme Court then adjourned the matter. And then it was listed this Friday, no, this Monday. And on Friday, that is the Friday prior to Monday, the judge delivers the judgment. So the petition becomes infructuous. So now we have to argue the main matter, which is now listed, I think, this Friday.
Okay.
Right. Now, or rather Monday. Now the question is this fair? Is this fair on any citizen of this country? That the High Court hears a matter on February 28th, reserves orders, does not deliver judgment for 2 months, knowing full well that the elections are around the corner. 13th of May, 13th of this month is the first phase of the election. Anyway, be that as it may, the court will deal with it on Monday.
Okay. In the courts, in the agencies, in the parliament, everywhere the fight is happening between the people or the democratic forces and between the state. Do you think these hate speeches by Prime Minister Modi, is it an election issue which is going to end by June 4, or it's going to be a prolonged fight?
Well, I don't know. I think if you look at the history of the BJP, who's in power, hate is a political agenda. And so that political agenda will continue.
Thank you for providing us this time. And I personally, and on behalf of Tamil Nadu, I want to thank you for making such wonderful arguments in the Jallikattu case. We have watched it on live, the hours of arguments that you have been making in the court. That was such a wonderful arguments to hear, and thank you for that case and many more cases that you have been educating us through the Constitution and through the judgments. Thank you for this wonderful time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.